temporary duty, so I left most of my belongings there, and then I went down there and we met these. I don't know. There must have about 30 of us. We're from different ships and organizations there, and what are we here for and everything else. And they said, oh, all kinds of rumors. We're gonna send you in before the first wave there at the Normandy invasion. I guess you're gonna put signs up, welcome ashore, or some crap. All kinds of crazy things.
Aloha.
Yeah, aloha, yeah. So then we were there, a little town, like a fishing village almost, Appledore on the Bristol Channel there, and then.
What's it called?
Huh?
What's the name of the town?
Appledore. It's hardly on a map even, yeah. So then we went from there and then to another place, about 30 or 40 of us, and gee, I mean, it was crazy. So one day we were in Dartmouth, where the British Navy Academy, our Annapolis, was there, and we were staying there for some reason or other. And it's one morning they called us in and they made us sign a paper that whatever you read this morning, you gotta swear that you'll never divulge. So they locked us in this room there, and they gave each of us a book this thick, the complete manual of the invasion, the Normandy invasion. There had all the ships listed. And what their jobs were, the army units and everything. Huge thing, yeah. So we were locked in there for about 2-3 hours, and we were able to read the whole thing there. Yeah, so we knew right then where the invasion was going to be, and when too. So, but in the meantime, we didn't. We were separated from our regular ships or assignments. So then we were, I don't know how many different places, and I went with one guy. He finally decided, well, I got to get my stuff, so I went with him. His ship was in Wales, in a little port in Wales. There, we took this. He borrowed a jeep.
Borrowed another jeep.
Yeah. It was quite common there to borrow those things.
You seem pretty good at that, huh?
Yeah. Oh, but after I left the ship unceremoniously, the crew though, they all came. They all wished me good luck there at 6 o'clock in the morning when I left that morning though. Yeah, they were very nice because I defended one of their own. So
they were jealous. You were getting off and they were stuck.
Yeah, but what little do they know? Yeah. So he decided we got to go. He wanted to get all his stuff there. Because I only took a small suitcase with me when I left the ship there. So most of my stuff was still back aboard the ship there. And so I went with him. He went to this town in Wales there where his ship was, and one of his pals, an officer on that ship, was a ward healer here in Chicago. I don't know, an alderman's assistant or something here. So he got to know all about Chicago politics. But finally, a few days before the invasion, I found out where the 344 was, and it was in Southampton, which is right across from directly across from where the invasion beaches would be. And I went down there. I got to get my stuff out of here, so I took train and hitchhiked there, and got down there, and I got my stuff there, and I went back to Plymouth, and then Falmouth, and by that time they had a job for us. So they put us on on an ancient British cruiser that had been sunk in the Mediterranean, and they needed all the shipping they could get for the invasion there, but it was like a dormitory for us, really. So we were sent aboard this thing there, and you got both the British and American personnel aboard it. And the British, of course, didn't like it because with Americans aboard, there was no alcohol allowed. And so they were denied their daily ration of rum. The British Navy, they get that, yeah. But, after you're built up to you're going to go on one of the biggest operations ever in history. I didn't want to lose out on it, so
Yeah.
so the old the HMS Cape Town, we called it the Crap Town. So,
Huh.
So we didn't leave Falmouth there until June the 6th was D-Day at the Normandy, and we didn't leave Falmouth until that morning, June the 6th. So this is one operation that I wasn't on an LST. So
Okay, so you're on the Cape Town now, and it's the invasion is beginning.
and they had this American staff aboard,
And what's your role on the ship? Do you have a?
I was with this group. It was called Task Group 120.6 or whatever. It's in my. And they for it was called shuttle control. We were supposed to be like port director outfit there. So we once we got out of the harbor there on our way. We still had to go up the English coast there and then head south to, almost to Southampton and then across to the beach, to the Normandy beachhead there. So once we got out of there, then they passed out these little letters that Eisenhower gave to all the troops there. You're embarked on the this and that, one of the biggest things, may God be with you, and all the rest of it. So so we're on our way. So we didn't get there until to the beach, the Normandy beachhead area until the next morning, June the 7th. Thousands and thousands of ships and craft, whatnot, as far as you could see. And the one right ahead of us was a transport. Transport is like a passenger ship that carries troops. So. And while we're going in there, you could see the French coast there ahead of us there. But so all of us on the ship right ahead of us, this transport, whoom, right up in the air, it hit a mine. So
Oh man.
a lot of the guys, soldiers, they're getting their first look at France there, and I don't know how many wounded or killed or whatever, but our orders, you had to keep going. They had other ships that were supposed to do the rescue work in case of stuff like that. So we just kept on going there, and then we got to our anchorage area.
And your ship is like a control ship.
Yeah, well, once we got in there, we anchored. And that was the American staff there. They called it shuttle control. We were aboard. So my job was, some of them, they were in the office there, working, arranging convoys and stuff like that, or whatever. My job was with a couple of other guys. We had to go out every morning onto a small craft there, and because early in the morning, they swept the minesweepers, because the German E-boats, they're like our PT boats. they could go in there and they could sow mines there in the anchorage area there. So we had to go in there and meet the incoming ships there and lead them through the mineswept channels there to the anchorage area there. So that was my job. 7 o'clock in the morning they picked me up and I don't know what they call boarding officer, I suppose.
So you're like a pilot almost, right?
Almost like that, yeah. But the crew on these things, they could do the job just as well as me. So hey, it was a job. So then about the fourth day in one afternoon, we were expecting a convoy coming in from England and of LSTs, and I was on that particular day. I was on a sub chaser, a small ship, 100 feet long or something, but a wooden hull. They had a number of them that were assigned to this for this job there. So this LST convoy approaches. It's coming in there, and LSTs they're lumbering things. Their top speed is 12 knots, so which is like about 15 miles an hour. But this thing is barreling in there, and we try to signal the thing, hey, slow down, you're approaching a non-swept waters there. And the guy kept on going, the lead ship there, 496 number. Sure enough, all of a sudden, boom, he hits a mine. So the other ones behind him there, they slowed up to everything. So we pulled up alongside there and we unloaded all the wounded that we could. A lot of the officers in the wardroom, both the Army and ship's officers, they were dead. And a lot of the guys, the crew guys, they were in the crew quarters there, and a lot of broken broken backs, broken arms, legs, and whatnot, and we had to get them out of there. It must have hurt like crazy trying to get them out of this little opening there. So by the time it was dark, by the time we'd loaded up all the available space on this sub chaser, the 1332, how can I forget it? Because I was involved with it in another thing later, but it was dark by then, so we, we knew that there were LSTs that were especially for hospital evacuation ships there, mainly for the wounded from the beach. But so we're looking around in the dark, and we got to the Cape Town there, and the British, they were all set to let us come aboard with the wounded and everything else, but then the exec officer of our outfit, nope, you take them to an LST. We're not taking them aboard here. So God knows how many of them died, that could have made it. So we're fooling around, it's all dark. You're not allowed any lights or anything like that. So finally we found an LST there that a hospital ship there, and we unloaded them all, but I don't know how many, but some of them, they went by the law, the regulations, and that's it.
So the LST didn't sink.
Yeah, well, finally they took it in, they were able to tow it into the beach. It was a complete loss, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a complete loss, though. Yeah. But, yep, it was 496. I used to think about that a lot of times. I think, what was that number, 496 or 446? It was the 496, yeah. So, it was a complete loss, though.
And you saw, unfortunately, people, crew members dying.
Yeah.
And what would you do when they...
What could you do? We didn't
cover them and...
Oh, we could cover with whatever blankets and stuff we had and stuff, but we didn't have this little sub chaser there. We didn't have any. They had little first aid stuff, but that's about it. So
You weren't equipped to do anything.
no, they weren't equipped to do that. Yeah, so. So I don't know. I must have gotten back to the ship around the Cape Town around. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they took me back that night there, but or maybe I stayed aboard that thing. I'm not sure. But a couple of weeks later, I was back on the same one, but there were different ones that.
Same one, same sub chaser.
Yeah, but they had several of them. They had also a PC boat they called. That's called a PC, a patrol craft. They had a couple of PT boats assigned for this job and everything. So a few days later, I was back on the same one again, and in that afternoon, the storm came up in the English Channel there, and I think it did more damage to the fleet than the Germans did in the
Could you see any action going on the Normandy beach when you were off the beach? Any fighting going on that you could see?
Well, you could see a lot of smoke and stuff, but you couldn't. You weren't that close that you could see the individual people there, though. But that night when that storm came up, they had the artificial breakwaters that they built. They called them mulberries. There's something that some brilliant British guy designed there, and they sunk a bunch of ships loaded with concrete there and made a breakwater there. So we tried to get behind that, but the anchor dragged, and so by morning we were on the beach, the SC-1332. So and I was there for the next 2 or 3 days. So.
Okay.
Well, our job was pretty much that of until they were able to open up a port where ships could go in and unload regularly. So I think by the end of June they'd captured Cherbourg. But it had been so damaged, the Germans had damaged it so much, did not deny us the use of it. So it took a while. So we just carried on with our job there until about the middle of August. And let's see, I told you about the big storm.
You did, yeah. But go ahead if you remember anything else.
Yeah,
about
it. So I spent a couple of nights on the beach there.
On Normandy Beach?
Yeah, because we couldn't get back to our ship.
How did you get on the beach in the first place?
I was on that sub chaser, the one that we.
The 1332.
Yeah, we met the convoys, and we anchored that night inside the Mulberry, but the storm was so violent that the anchor dragged.
Oh.
And their engine conked out on them, so we wound up finally in further and further. In the morning, he said, "Okay, we got to abandon ship." So, but the water then, no danger of drowning or anything like that. So then we had to walk ashore, and finally, when the tide went out, this thing was on dry ground. So.
Well, did you sleep on the beach then?
Yeah, right next to the ship there. Yeah. But there was one LST that was on up high and dry on the ship there, and it was like a sort of a hotel there, and you could go there and sack out for a few hours and get a warm meal and stuff like that. But
even though it was fully beached on the ground.
Completely, yeah. So finally, this is long after we had our experience, when they were able to they were going to try and free the SC-1332, and it's sitting on a mine on the beach, and we didn't all that time. But
And unfortunately, it didn't go
it
off.
never went off. Yeah. But at 1332 was a wooden hulled ship anyway, so
Right.
it didn't set off the mines anyway. So about the middle of August.
Oh wait, what happened to July here?
Same stuff.
Every day you're doing this
Yeah,
the
yeah.
shuttle control. and
That's
all-
right, yeah.
Okay. So you're guiding ships in and out
Well,
of the.
yeah. Well, a couple of us did that, and the other ones then when the ships were unloaded, then they waited to form a convoy to go back to England.
And you would get in and help them get out then.
Oh, by that they knew the channel there. Yeah.
Okay. So what was your job then?
We met the incoming ones.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, we met the incoming.
And guided them in.
Yeah, but the other part of the staff, they were. It was like a port director's office there, and well, you had to arrange convoys there because they had to get escorts, because the Germans still had U-boats around, and their U-boat is their submarines, and E-boats were their surface vessels, like our PT boats. Like they were real fast, 40 knots, and they in and out, and hard to detect on radar and everything. So they could go in there and raise havoc with whatever shipping they could.
And they did that.
And they did that, yeah. And they used to come, and that's one of the jobs for us, because they used to come in at night even and penetrate the anchorage area there and sow mines. That's why early every morning they had to clear the channel there. And so that's why we met the convoys, and then to show, hey, this is the cleared channel. This is the one that you're supposed to use.
Where do you think these German boats were coming from?
Le Havre.
Le Havre? Okay.
Yeah. Which was just, well, hey, those distances weren't so great there. They could probably make it from there over to our anchorage area in 30 minutes at 40 knots. Yeah.
And they could outrace anything we had.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you couldn't in the dark. They did in the darkness. I mean, you couldn't even see them. So
Right.
So they were there.
Wow. That's amazing.
So, so around the middle of August sometime, they said, okay, your job is done. So you're going back to England, and most of you can go back to the States. So you can take your choice. You can either fly back or go up to Scotland and take one of the queens back, Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth. And I figured, well, I'd flown already before, so I'm sure I'll be able to fly in the future, but I'll never get a chance to ride a Queen. So I elected to go up there to Scotland there, and outside of Glasgow, they had a big, it was almost like a castle there, but somebody's big estate that they'd taken over, and we lived there for a couple of weeks until one of the queens came in. So.
Okay. Well, before we jump on the Queen here on this voyage across the ocean, what think of the time during the Normandy invasion time? What was your most vivid memory? Is there anything that just made you really super scared, or really happy, or annoyed,
I can't say I was ever super scared, but
is there one incident that really burned an image in your mind?
yeah, the one of that LST that
The one that the 496.
496. Boy, you got a good memory. That one, yeah, that, and then the.
And what was it about it that really created an impression on you?
Well, we tried to get the thing to stop or slow down, because he's going into the water that hadn't been mineswept, but he did. I don't know what he was trying to prove.
Why do you think he might have done that?
Maybe he was a glory seeker. I don't know, but
Okay.
you can't go into the beach to unload until you're told to anyway. So I don't know. You know, there are people like that. And he's not going to get paid anymore. It's not like piecework.
So one of those mysteries that we'll never know.
Yeah, and we never had a chance to talk to him because he was killed. Most of the officers were killed on that thing there, including the Army officers that were aboard. But that was a long night there. We finally got back to our ship around midnight there, and after having taken the wounded to the LSTs that were designated for that.
Okay.
But that, and then of course, going into the beachhead there on the June the 7th, there the ship right ahead of us hit a mine there. So
those two incidences.
That,
really...
and then we were on the beach there. I think that storm did more damage than the Germans did. So.
Right.
Scared constantly.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're near Glasgow, and you're in a castle waiting for the Queen. And which Queen ship was it?
So finally, the Queen Elizabeth came in.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went aboard, and 9,000 German prisoners were on the thing, but we didn't see anything. That was the Army's job to look after them. So we were in the first class areas there, accommodations there, and it was still had a civilian crew there and everything else. So we had our meals there in the first class dining room.
What was the
Breakfast at 8 a.m., dinner or supper at 6 p.m. So by the time, no meal in the middle of the day. So we're starved by that time.
Yeah, a bunch of young men.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Why is that? Is that
I don't know.
What was the ship painted a different color, or was
No, regular black and
really?
yeah,
Even during wartime?
yep. No, they didn't camouflage that thing. So it was, regularly it was we had escort going out of the Firth of Clyde there, which is the waterway right by Glasgow there, and went down the Irish Sea, and then about 100 miles out from away from the Irish coast, and the ship was on its own, no escort. And so, well, they figured that unless it could outrun or outsail, whatever the word is, just about anything there, unless there's a submarine right in its path, and you know, it could outrun anything,
Right.
any German ship.
Right.
So it was regularly a 4-day trip across the Atlantic, and all those transatlantic ships in those days, they could do it in 4 days or just a little over. But there was so when we got down near Bermuda there was a big hurricane, so they had to go out of the way. So we.
Where was the ship bound for?
New York.
Oh, why would it go by Bermuda? That seems a little south.
Yeah. Isn't that way far down?
No, Bermuda is east of the Carolinas.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
No, I think we had to go down there because of the hurricane. Yeah, but no, the Bahamas are the one down by Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bermuda is like about 700 miles out east of the Carolinas in the Atlantic there. So we arrived in New York this one Sunday afternoon, and quite a thrill, going by the Statue of Liberty and everything else. And so finally they docked the thing there. I don't remember what pier it was, but on the Hudson River there. And we had to wait several hours while they were unloading the prisoners and whatnot. And
they got off first.
They got off first. Then they.
What did they do with them? Do you know? Did they load them onto a train? Or?
Yeah, put them on train and send them off to some POW camp. I know they had POW camp. Well, we had a lot more room here in the States than they had in England, so
Right.
I know they had POW camps in Arkansas. I know.
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado, Washington State, So we finally got off. They had a train there for us, and they took us out to Long Beach on Long Island there, just outside of the New York City limits. There was a country club there, Lido Beach, and they put us up there. So we were there until we had to check in once a day.
And what month is this now?
This would be in. This must have been the first part of September, I guess.
Of 44.
Yeah, 44, yeah. And to wait for further orders. So otherwise our time was our own. I remember that.
Sorry to interrupt you. On the voyage over, was there anything notable on that? Did you play games? Did you have to work? Did you?
We were passengers.
Passengers, so you didn't have to work. You could just file away playing cards or whatever you felt.
Whatever. They had some big poker games going, but I wasn't much of a gambler, so I didn't participate.
Was the ocean pretty calm and?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Okay. Nothing notable then.
No, nothing.
Okay.
No, we heard about this hurricane, but we weren't involved in it. The ship that I joined later on happened to be in that one though. So, but I didn't know anything about that ship at that time. I had no idea that. But I heard about it later. But so I remember that evening when we finally got squared away. We went out, and the first thing I went to a little restaurant there, and the first thing I ordered to eat was a BLT and a chocolate milkshake.
American food, huh?
American food, because we never had any bacon over there and or fresh vegetables.
It's the most memorable BLT you ever had.
Right, yeah, and a chocolate milkshake, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Out in the Pacific, though, we got fresh food, though. The Navy ran the war in the Pacific, and believe me, the food was a lot better.
There you go. There's the Navy for you.
Yeah, no, the Navy is always famous for better food. Yeah.
Really?
But the Army, the European war was run by the Army, and the war in the Pacific, for the most part, except for where MacArthur was, it was a Navy war. Or they ran it rather. Yeah. So let's see. We were. I was there in. New York. We went in every day. I visited my grandmother a couple of times.
Glenda?
Yeah, she was in Brooklyn, but I'd have to take we took the train into. You gonna say?
Go ahead.
We had to take like the metro, the train there from Long Island into. Grand Central Station, and then I took the subway. I knew the subway system pretty good in New York.
And do you remember anything about Glenda? Was she in good health at that time? Did you have long conversations with her? Anything you remember from that? Or just a kind of a social visit?
Yeah, social visit, yeah.
Okay.
Big points.
Yeah, well, she didn't speak English as well as, a lot of people, but...
So she had a thick accent and all that?
Well, I don't know if it was thick.
An accent, a Norwegian accent.
Well, whatever, yeah. Yeah.
Where were your parents then? Here?
I'm trying to think. What year was this?
44.
Oh, they were in Chicago. Yeah. They were in Chicago then. Yeah, they were running the Lydia home then. Yeah, they were running Lydia home.
Which we drove by today.
Oh, you did, huh? Yeah.
Did you get a lot of letters from your parents at this time, or was that hard to come by?
Well, they wrote almost every week, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, they had the special lightweight type of thing. Thing you folded up, wrote on one side, and then you fold the thing up, and it formed an envelope.
So it kind of was light and.
Yeah, lightweight. Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes we wouldn't get it all. We might get 5 or 6 of them at one time or something.
Right.
But